All right, guys, we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, let's see how many people we got here. 28. It's not bad, right? Okay, people, let's make it happen. Um, Tell me where you're from, everybody in the chat. I shouldn't say everybody, those who are willing to share. I'll tell you where I'm from. I'm from, well, originally from New York City, but I live in Seattle. That's where I'm broadcasting from today, in Seattle. We have Asta from London. Hi, Asta. Lauren from South Carolina. Corey, Miami. Also Seattle. Thanks. Not thanks, but welcome. Sarah. Olivia is patching in from San Diego. Brian from Utah. Sarah from New York City. Srushti from Dubai. Look at that. All over the map. Momina from Pakistan. Thomas in SF. Rachel calling in from New Jersey. Chris in Georgia. Danielle also from Miami. Giuliano from DC. Wow, we're all over the map, huh? Dallas for Ruta. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Maybe it's Ruta. Ruta, I'm going to say. Anthony from Boston. New Hampshire. Maybe you're applying to Tuck, iPhone 10. And Shiv from India. Okay, my name is Avi. It's 3 letters, A-V-I, pronounced Avi. Pleasure to be with you all today. So, I labeled this Quant Strategies for Math Fraidy Cats. Not even sure they use that term anymore. Fraidy Cats, a term from the 80s, a holdover term. But there's a lot of anxiety associated with the math portion of standardized tests, more so for most people anyway, than the verbal. Okay, why? Well, because you don't need to know anything to do the verbal. You can answer the questions. You might not get them right, but you can answer them. You understand them. Whereas in the math, you might just not even know how to answer them because you have no idea what they're talking about, right? I don't know, fractions or algebra or probability or geometry. Just like, I don't remember that. It's been 5, 10, 12 years since I took a math class. Okay. Don't call me a fraidy cat, Avi, but I just don't remember. I don't have a great memory. I don't care to remember rules for geometry or algebra or how to manipulate fractions. Okay. But I ain't no fraidy cat. I know you're not. But let's talk today about the quant section, specifically about the GRE. And this applies somewhat to the GMAT too. The GMAT's a more sophisticated test. I teach both exams, and I've written official questions as a test question writer for both the GMAT and the GRE and the SAT for that matter. So I know how they're structured. So a few things to get out of the way first. Welcome. Okay. Number 2, here's a little bit about me. Let me, if there's any issues, by the way, as I do this presentation with, sound quality or anything like that, or the images on the screen, let me know. So I do, my background is I went to Berkeley and then I worked in admissions at Berkeley at the School of Business, the Haas School. And then I became a writer and reporter for the LA Times for not many years, most of my 20s. And then I got into test prep tutoring and admissions. Okay, I used my experience as an admissions committee member at Berkeley, and then I've been all over the map, from behind the scenes as an admissions committee member to writing test questions for the GMAT and the GRE to working at Kaplan as both an admissions consultant and as their head test writer, and trainer and teacher. I also wrote several of the books that Kaplan's in circulation right now for the GRE and the GMAT. And then I was the head of admissions consulting for USC, the University of Southern California, down in Los Angeles. So that's a little bit about me. Often people ask, what do you enjoy about what you do? What's your favorite thing about the job? It's a good question, and some people are like, I don't know, I just do it for a paycheck. I don't believe them. I really don't. Even if they hate their job, I don't believe them. There is something that you get out of every single job. I happen to like my job, and it's not a job, it's a career. There's certain people that do this part-time, on the side while they're in business school or while they're being a consultant or whatever. That's not me. This is what I do full-time, all day long. I eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. My favorite part about my job on the test prep side, not on the admissions consulting side, but on the test prep side, is showing Math Fraidy Cats. And these are typically people who have degrees in English or history or psychology or sociology or anthropology. They don't have a math background for their college degree. It just wasn't required. It's not that they're bad at math. It's just that they haven't touched it in a long time. Showing them that this is not a math test. Some math is required, sure. But remember, you're not applying for a math PhD program or a math master's program. So the business schools don't care if you're a math genius. What they do care about is if you can think strategically and critically. In other words, if you don't remember every single thing about math, can you still answer the questions strategically and critically the way a business strategist or a business leader would think about problems with incomplete information? They might not be an expert on X, okay? But can they summon the resources, the limited resources, the limited information that they do have to arrive at a reasonable answer, a conclusion? So today we're going to talk about that, okay, and how the questions are structured. From test prep to interviews, Leland has got your back in the MBA application process, exclamation point. You think that's a sales pitch? You're right, it is, but it's more than that. I've worked with Leland now since early last year, so a couple years, going on a couple years. These are the finest, most ethical and professional group of people. I don't want to say I've ever worked with, because I've had the good fortune of working with very ethical and professional people, but they're among the top, okay? I will say this, in terms of platforms for coaching in this particular space of test prep and in college admissions and MBA, they have no equal, okay? They are the best. The people that work here, the coaches, are of the highest quality, okay? Am I good? Yeah. Am I great? Yeah. Am I an expert? Yeah. Am I the only one? No. There are other expert, excellent coaches on the platform. So anytime I have a session with somebody, an intro chat, I say, book a couple other ones, shop around, see who fits your personality, temperament, etc. This is some of the examples of coaching that you'll get. All right, so how important is the GMAT or the GRE in this case? Obviously, it's important, right? But why is it important? I want you to look at it from the eyes of the admissions committee. Today I'm going to give you the perspective. You have the perspective of an applicant and a test taker. You're the applicant, and you're also the test taker. I am the test writer and the admissions committee. I'm going to give you that perspective. How do they view your test score? Okay. We're not going to talk applications today. If you have questions on applications, you can reach out to me for an intro chat or read my profile or, look on Leland, and there's other resources there. But simply put, the GRE and the GMAT is a better indicator of success in business school than your GPA is. It's that simple. They have the data. They've done the research. They've compared the applicants across one another. And they've determined that a high GRE score or GMAT score is a better predictor of business school success, grades, performance, participation, contribution, than GPA is, okay? Which is kind of unfair. Took 4 years to accumulate your GPA, okay? It takes less than 4 hours to take the GRE test, okay? So that's not fair. But it is in some ways, okay? Because the GRE and the GMAT, they're hard tests, and to score high is hard, which means if you do score very high, especially if you're scoring at the M7 level schools, if you don't know what I mean by the M7s are the top business schools in the country. I'm not going to go over which ones they are. You can look that up. M7. You need to get a very, very high score, okay? And to get that, you got to study hard, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It means that you have a demonstrated level of commitment, dedication, and hard work today, not 5 years ago when you got your GPA, which is also impressive and it counts, but today, okay? Plus, the skills that are tested on the GRE and the GMAT are ones that are more reflective of the type of thinking required in business school for the projects and coursework, et cetera, that you're going to be completing. So that's the way they view it, okay? But there's good news. If you got a less than stellar GPA, maybe you got a 3.4 and you want to apply to Stanford, good luck with that. Are you going to get in? Maybe. It doesn't mean you're not going to get in. There's people that get in with 3 1s at Stanford. How rare is that? Pretty rare, but it happens. But you can offset a mediocre GPA with a powerful test score, okay? Especially because they value it more. Remember that. They value it more. So does it mean your GPA doesn't count? No, it does. It counts for a lot, okay? Big GPA helps, okay, versus small GPA. But if you have a mediocre GPA, then a GRE and GMAT score can overcome that, okay? By the way, look at this here. Big GMAT equals big ranking equals big money. What do I mean by that? On some level, this is self-preservation for the business schools, okay? Business schools are, at the end of the day, like every outfit, a business. Who's their customer? The recruiters, okay? They are in bed with the business school saying, hey, we want your best products and we'll pay for them. Who is the product? You, the applicants, okay? So a big GMAT score means that every year their rankings will be at the top because rankings determine, excuse me, GMAT often determines, it's one of the major factors of school rankings. And school rankings attract the highest quality recruiters, right? Google, Goldman Sachs, whoever. So that is a money game, right? That's like all things. There is a commercial component of it. Plus, we live in the age of algorithms, right? Some schools, we are told, there's no confirmation of this, but we're relatively certain it occurs. I know because I've spoken to my contacts in admissions. They use algorithms sometimes to screen the first round of applicants. Let's say Stanford gets, I don't know, 4,000 applicants, right? So they want to get rid of 1,000 pretty quickly. So they have an algorithm that assesses quantitative factors of the application. What are the only quantitative factors? Your GRE and your GPA, or your GMAT and your GPA. And so if the algorithm screened for that, you might just be cut off, okay, based on those 2 factors. This is anecdotal so far, but it does go on, okay, off the record. All right. We'll save questions for later. I'm going to check the chat. Yeah, I got nothing here. Yeah, okay. All right, next, what do we want to talk about? Well, which one should you take? Okay, why should I take the GRE? Why should I take the GMAT? And then we'll get into quant strategies for Fraidy Cats. That's why you're really here, right? Bunch of Fraidy Cats. It's okay. I'm a Fraidy Cat on some things too, not the GRE or the GMAT, because that's what I do, but I'm a Fraidy Cat when it comes to public speaking. I am. I've gotten better at it, but I'm a Fraidy Cat. Why should you take the GRE? All right. Number 1, I find English and history classes easier. GMAT, I find math and science classes easier. Either easier or you prefer it, okay? Number 2, when testing, I answer easy questions first and go back to the ones I skipped. GMAT, when testing, I don't usually skip questions and come back to them. You do them sequentially. GRE, I'm what they call right-brained. GMAT, I'm what they call left-brained. You all know what that means. If not, Google it. Okay. There's a pattern developing here, right? GRE, I don't mind taking long tests. GMAT, I have trouble taking tests that last several hours. GRE, I prefer writing over calculating. GMAT, I prefer calculating over writing. GRE, I'm fine with following given structures for my assignments. Okay. GMAT, I need to do assignments in a personalized order or a prioritized order. Okay. And the last one, GRE, I like to analyze problems. In other words, think about them in an abstract way. GMAT, I like to solve problems in a very practical way. Answer these questions for yourself. And is that a foolproof, litmus test for which test to take? No, it's not. But you see the pattern. The GRE is a much more qualitative-based test. Yes, there's a math element to it, but the verbal is very qualitative-based, and even the math questions are much less difficult, formal, abstract math. It's very practical. And the GMAT is very, very math heavy, very logical reasoning heavy, okay? And so, depends what you're well suited for. You could take a practice exam for each and see which one, suits your skill set better or your temperament even. Which one's easier is the question I get most often. I'll give you the most unsatisfying answer and also the most common answer for every single question in human existence. As with all things, it depends, right? It depends on a lot of things. So this guide here, is a good start. If people are wondering, you can reach out to me and we can talk about it kind of one-on-one, kind of give you a better sense of how to think about it. I usually don't give answers to questions, but I give you very solid frameworks for you to think about it and arrive at your own answer. That's usually more satisfying for people. The GRE is a multiple stage test. So it adapts between sections. You do good on a section, the next section gets harder. That's all I want to say about that, okay? Let's take a look at a quick question. Have you lost your marbles? Take a look at this question. And I don't care if you can solve it or not. Let's just take a look at it. There's a bag containing a certain number of red, blue, and green marbles. All but 2 are green, all but 2 are red, all but 2 are blue. How many marbles is in the bag? All right. Again, I don't care if you can solve it. I have another question for you. Do you understand it? Well, most people do, and I'm sure people are going to rush to the chat going, I got the answer. Fine, great. I mean, honestly, that's wonderful. That's not the point of this exercise. I'll show you the point in a second. There's a bag containing a certain number of red, blue, and green marbles. All but 2 are green. What does that mean? All but... Oh, God, deal with this again. All but 2 are green. What does that mean? If I told you that I had 3 children and all but 2 are boys, what does that mean? Yeah, total. Yeah, so Rachel says total minus 2 equals green. Momina agreed. Yeah, okay. So if I told you that I have 2 children, excuse me, 3 children, and all but 2 are boys, it means all of them are boys except 2. Oh, so I have 2 girls and 1 boy, right? All right. Now, here's this question. This question can be solved using algebra, okay? We can let green be G and red be R and B blue be B, and start creating equations, okay? G minus 2 equals 2B minus R2, right? Which is fine. Some people like algebra. They like it, okay? Probably not most of you because you're Fraidy cats, right? Guys, you obviously know that I'm joking when I say Fraidy cats. When I say, what I mean by that, first of all, it's, a funny little title for our talk here. But what I mean by that is that you get anxiety when you think about taking a math test or, studying for the math portion of the GRE. Does that make you a fraidy cat? No, it makes you a human being, right? That hasn't touched math in a while. Or, like I said, that was a sociology major or a theater major or whatever that focused more on writing and researching and reading and understanding rather than solving math problems, okay, like a physics major or an engineering person, okay? Although the strategies I discuss will also be applicable to those people, engineering people, etc., because they do the math rather than do the strategy. So this question can be solved using math, but it can also be solved using straight logic, right? If all but 2 are green, okay, that means I have 2 that are not green, right? All of them are green except 2. So I have 2 that are not green, okay? So 2 not, this is going to be, don't worry, I'll fix this in a second, but for this slide, 2 not, oh God. I'm just going to narrate this. For the next slide, I'll fix it. 2 are not green. Okay. Next, all but 2 are red. Okay, so then all of them are red except 2. Wait a minute. If all of them are green except 2, all of them are red except 2, and all of them are blue except 2, we have to have one of each, right? If I have one green, then all of them are green except 2, the red and the blue one. If I have one red, I have all of them are red, right? The one red, except 2 of them, the blue and the green. What this shows you is that there's 2 ways to do problems. There's the mathematical way, and then there's the strategic logical way. Now, maybe some of you are thinking, like, I wouldn't have seen this logic. I understand, okay? But my point is that what the strategies I'm about to show are methods you can apply to avoid having to do the traditional math. You can mess with this problem later and you'll see what I'm saying. It's just like I told you, if I have 3 kids and all but 2 are boys, that means all of them are boys except 2. Oh, so I got 2 girls. That means I have 1 boy, right? The host has spotlighted your video for everyone. Okay, I don't know what that means, but whatever. You can apply that idea here, and you'll see it's just 3 of them, and it's the same thing. That means I have 1, 1, and 1. 3 total marbles, okay? How does that apply to the GRE, okay? Watch this video, and I think you'll discover a little bit about how. Watch this video.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla? This video is from research by Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris and is copyrighted.
Okay, so hang on. What was the point I was trying to make? The point is, if you're looking so closely at a specific way to do something, you lose the bigger picture. By the way, if you could put in the chat, how many people didn't see the gorilla? I'm just curious. Fell for it, didn't see it. Yeah, you're not alone. I didn't either the first time. I didn't see it. And then when they rewinded, I'm like, how could I miss that? How could I miss that? I missed it because I was looking very one-dimensionally at a specific thing. Okay. So, and I didn't even count so Momino was 0 for 2. Didn't count the passes right. Didn't see the gorilla. All right. So what does this have to do with the GRE? Well, you'll be able to see it by way of 2 examples that I'm going to show you. But again, the message here is most people look at this as a math test. And remember, they're not admitting people into a math PhD program. They're looking for people to look at things 3-dimensionally from multiple angles, which means if this angle doesn't work, maybe they can come at it sideways. Okay. So here's a quote I like. Any fool can make things bigger, more complex. It takes a touch of genius to move in the opposite direction. Einstein, one of my heroes. Here's the story of 2 Marys. And now you're going to see a GRE problem. Here's the first problem. Okay. Mary can type 6 words every 3 minutes. At this rate, how many words can she type in 2 hours? Don't solve it. I'm sure you can solve it. My question is, do you understand it? Of course you do. Why? Well, because it's English and easy whole numbers. So of course I understand it. You're saying Mary can type this many words in this many minutes. So how many words can she type in a couple of hours? I understand that. Maybe I can't do it, but at least I understand it. I know most of you can do it. This is a very easy question. Let me give you another question. There's 2 Marys. Let me give you another Mary question. How about this one? Mary can type X over 3 words every Y over 7 minutes. How many words can she type in ZY over X hours? What? But it's the same question as this one. The only thing is they erased 6, they erased 3, and they erased 2, and they replaced it with this ugliness. X over 3, Y over 7, and ZY over X. And then the answer choices are this ugliness, okay? But it's the same exact question. And a game that the GRE often plays is with word problems and a lot of questions that don't contain word problems that include variables because they know that the number one stressor for test takers, number one on the list, is time and variables. I should say number 1 and 2. Limited amount of time and variables. Variables stress people out, even people who are good at math. They just stress people. And I don't solve this, we can kind of play with it later. I'll show you what's the objective here and how to make life easier on the GRE. But remember the broad point here. The broad point here is test designers, I know because I used to be one of them, are hired to stress you out, to include artificial stressors. So what do? They take otherwise simple tasks and make them abstract. This is an easy question. This is an easy question. Let's solve it, okay? Let's solve this question. Hang on. God, I gotta figure this out. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Okay, give me 30 seconds and we'll come back to this. Let me just figure out the... Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here in a second. And we're going to do the Mary question, and then I'm going to show you the game that the GRE is playing. Okay. So let's go. Okay. So let's do it here. Okay. Here's the question, right? Mary can type 6 words every 3 minutes. At this rate, how many words can she type in 2 hours? Let's solve it. 6 words in 3 minutes is how many words per minute? First person in the chat is my hero. Final answer, 6 words every 3 minutes is? Anybody? 2 words per minute. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the 120 is fine. Okay, 2 words per minute, 6 over 3. 2 words a minute. So how many in an hour? Well, if it's 2 in a minute, multiplied by 60 to get how many in an hour, which is 120. What do they want to know? How many in 2 hours? Multiply by 2. And I get, I'm done. That's an easy question. Good for me. What's the problem? The problem is that question will not appear on the GRE. This one will. Mary can type X words every Y minutes. How many words can she type in Z hours? And then here's your answers. They all pretty much look the same. Or the one that we saw earlier, which I'll put up on the board again, but the one that we saw earlier was X over 3 words every Y over 7 minutes. How many words can she type in Z over XY hours? And even more difficult question. I'll have you guys do that one in a second. But before, let's do this one. But keep in mind, watch, nothing has changed. They just threw away this, and this, and they put this, and this. So one of the strategies that you can do, and this is applying to a lot of different question types. I'll just show you one today, which is word problems, okay? But it can be applied in many different ways. And there's subtle ways you need to understand how to do it. So it's not just, I'll show you one way today. But in order to succeed on the test, there's multiple ways to do this. But let's go from here back to here. Let's choose a number for X. You can choose anything. So let's make our life easy by choosing something small. Okay, I already see people have answered this one. It's not a horror, by the way, people who are answering it, this is not a hard question. Okay, this is a pretty easy one. But the strategy that I show you for this one can be applied for all of these ugly, nasty questions like this one. This one, even if you're good at algebra and math, this is a very hard question and all the answers look the same. And if you don't apply strategy, it's going to be hard. By the way, let's say you're still good at algebra, okay, and you want to do this one. It's not whether you can do it correct. It's whether you can do it quick. You only have about 90 seconds for a question. Sometimes it takes 90 seconds just to read it again because you didn't pick up everything, then formulate algebra equations, maybe make a careless mistake. If you did, one of the answers is going to be here because they all look the same, okay? It's about doing it efficiently. So go back here. Let's substitute an X because I like to work with numbers because I understand it. All right, X equals, I see the chat's empty, so I'll pick the numbers. There's nothing magical about the numbers I'm going to pick. You can pick them if you want. If somebody wants to give me a number in the chat, I'll use theirs. X equals, oh, there's somebody. 5. Okay, that's the 5. Now there's no longer an X. It's 5 words every, what's a good number to select now? Every, okay, Sam says 7 minutes. Great. 7 minutes. Perfect. 5 words in 7 minutes. Remember, you can pick anything you want. Why are these horrible numbers to pick? It'll work, but why are they horrible? Because it makes my life miserable. It makes the math 5 words in 7 minutes. What the hell is that? Right? The previous question, 6 words in 3 minutes. That's nice. That's easy. That's 2. 5/7 of a word. That's ugly. I don't want to do that. I want to make my life easier. I don't like 5 and 7. Okay. Let's change it. Give me better numbers that make my life easy. 10 and 5, says Morgan. 9 and 3, says Asta. Either one, right? These are nice. 10 and 5. 10 words every 5 minutes. Beautiful. That's 2 words per minute. Keep going. How many words can she type in? Give me a Z. Anything you want. I try to keep it small just to make my life easy, but anything will work. Anybody want a Z? Anybody have a favorite Z? No? 2, says Morgan. 4, whatever. Let's say 2. Can you answer that question? How many words can she type in 2 hours if she types 2 words per minute? Yeah. 2 words per minute multiplied by 60 is 120 in an hour. How many in 2 hours multiplied by 2? That's 240. That's my answer. 240. Now I go here and find 240 by plugging in 10, 5, and 2. First of all, you have a calculator to use on this test. But I want to show you that it shouldn't take long to find 240 here. Why? Because the GRE wants to reward strategy, strategic thinking. So don't start saying, all right, let's plug in 10, 5, and 2 in all of these and say which one's 240. Some of them are impossible. Look at B, Z divided by something. Is 2 divided by anything going to be 240? No, of course not. If 2 divided by something is going to be a number smaller than 2, right? That's gone. What else is gone? Look at A. X times Z, 10 times 2. 20 divided by something is not going to be 240. What else? Look at E. 10 times 5 times 2. What's that? 10 times 5 is 50 times 2 is 100. Is 100 divided by anything going to be 200? No, of course not. It's got to be one of these. Okay? So we'll try one of them. If it's correct, fine. If it's not, it's okay. Then we know it's the other one. So let's try C. 60 times X times 10 times Z times 2. Divided by Y divided by 5. And now you can use your calculator if you want. You have it. 60 times 10 times 2 divided by 5, yeah, is going to be 240. Okay? This is how to do question. And again, this is an easy one. This is a very easy one. We'll do a little bit more of a challenging one in a second. But I want you to play back at them. And this is just one strategy. I mean, there's a lot of strategies on this test. I just want you to see one of them that makes your life easy if you hate algebra and equations. Okay, it's basically turning this Mary question back into this Mary question. Okay, by replacing variables with numbers and then reading it in terms of the numbers, because this is an easy question. This is actually easy too. It's the same question. They're just replacing 6, 3, and 2 with X, Y, and Z. So just reverse engineer it on them. Okay. Now, let's go back here. To our 2 Marys. Okay. So now we saw this. Okay. And again, this isn't a difficult one. This one is. Let me read this to you. I'm just going to read it. Don't solve it. You know, the math people are going to start solving it, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. A paper boy working her route makes P dollars for every Q papers she delivers. Should say she. For every paper beyond Q, the paperboy makes P plus T dollars. If 1 week the paperboy delivers P plus Q papers, and the next week she delivers Q plus T papers, then how much more money did the blah, blah? Okay, that's a lot. Okay, show of hands, figurative show of hands, not literal. How many people would have to reread it? I would, and I'm very good at this. I can score a perfect score, on the GRE. Me, says Morgan. There's an honest person. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you, Morgan. I'd have to read it too. Again. And probably a second or third time. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Right? You don't have time to read this multiple times. You have to get to work immediately. Okay? Now, we talked about the strategy. So much pressure, says Momina. Yeah, you're right, Momina, but I guarantee you, okay, and this is, again, like I said, just one strategy. There's several, many, okay, that you can talk about here, but we only have the hour. But watch this. Watch this. I'm going to read this again. Now, look, here's the way most people do it. Watch. A paperboy, people are very in a rush on the test because of what Momina said. Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Momina. If not, I apologize. They go from a paperboy all the way to the question mark. It's the worst way to do it. It's natural, but it's the worst way. Why? Here's what happens. A paperboy working her out makes P dollars for every Q paper she delivers. For every paper beyond Q, the paperboy makes P plus T dollars. I'm already lost, but I'm going to keep going, hoping it gets better. It never does. If 1 week the paperboy delivers P plus Q papers, and the next week she delivers Q plus T papers, okay, I'm completely lost now, but I'm going to keep reading. Why? I have no idea why. There's no point to it, but I'll keep reading, wasting time. Then how much more money did the paperboy make in week 1 if P? It's a waste of 30 seconds. It's a complete waste of 30 seconds, okay? So don't read it like that. Instead, do exactly what we did earlier. A paperboy working a route makes $10 for every 5 papers he delivers. And then you're going to apply that method. But watch what that does. If I showed up at your work, anybody, Omina, Morgan, Amanda, Alice, Greenfield, whoever, okay? And I gave you this question, but instead, watch. I gave it to you like this. A paperboy working her route makes $10 for every 5 papers she delivers. I just realized this is paperboy and then her, whatever. A paperboy working her route makes $10 for every 5 papers she delivers. Do you understand what that is? Of course you do. For every paper beyond 5, the paperboy makes $15. If 1 week the paperboy delivers 20 papers and the next week she delivers 30 papers, how much more did the paperboy make in week 1 if 15 is bigger than 10? You might have to read that again, but you could figure it out. If I showed up at your work, I said, hey, here's a problem. Here's 3 minutes. Give you $100 if you could solve it. Most of you could. If I substituted numbers, it's a very straightforward question. Very straightforward. Okay? For those of you who don't like math, you might take a little bit more time on it, but you could solve it. But they turn it into an advanced tricky question just with P's, Q's, and T's. Okay? And we can play back at them and reverse engineer it. I'm not going to do this one. Okay? You could do it I could do it on your own. Take a screenshot or whatever. But I want to show you that the test is intended to be solved strategically. Can some questions, are there questions that can't be, that you just have to do the math on? Yeah, there are some of those, okay? But most of them can be applied strategy for, okay? Let me give you one more strategy. All right, check. I get it. All right, Arhum. Let me give you one more strategy. Take a look at this question. Sometimes the strategy is in the answers rather than in the questions, okay? Let me read this to you. Sue owns a construction company and it takes 8 of her employees 6 months to construct 3 houses. I already hate it. I don't know about you, but I'm like, okay, 8 employees, okay, 6 months, okay. Ellen owns a different construction company and it takes 8 of her employees half the time. I already hate this question. Okay. But usually the long questions on the GRE in particular. Now here there's no variables, it's just numbers, so different strategy. Can be done using algebra, but they want to reward people who don't know algebra but can think logically. So watch. Sue owns a construction company, takes 8 of her employees 6 months to do 3 houses. Ellen owns another construction company, takes 8 of her employees half the time to do the same number of houses. Half the time meaning takes her 6 months, it takes her 8 months, 3 months, right? 6 months here, takes her half the time, takes her 3 months. If Sue and Ellen combine their companies to form Sue Ellen Construction, how long would it take a combined workforce consisting of 8 of Sue's and 8 of Ellen's to construct 3 houses? I don't know. I can't solve that. But here's what I do know, because I'm looking at the answers. 2, 3, 4 1/4, 4, 6, blah, blah, blah. And I know that Avi taught me in his seminar for Math Fraidy Cats that long word problems with numerical answers often have shortcut methods to avoid the algebra. Let me look for it. If it takes 8 of her employees 6 months, and it takes 8 of her employees 3 months, half the time, then if I combine the two, it has to take less than what? Yeah, Rachel, it has to take less than 3 months. If Ellen's company can do it alone in half the time, meaning in 3 months, then if she combines with Sue, of course it's going to take less than 3 months. The only feasible answer is A. That's the only one that can be. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I can tell you it's less than 3 months, and that's the only one that's less than 3 months. Okay? Now, are all questions going to have these shortcuts? No. But a reasonable portion will. And even if you know how to do this question, it takes a long time to do it. Okay? Did anybody not follow my logic here, by the way, on this one? I'm just curious. I really want you to see this one. You know, I know Rachel did. Did anybody not follow the logic on why it has to be less than 3 months? Good. Good. Then there's these question types, problem solving. Okay. They give you a quantity A and then a quantity B. Okay. And then they ask which one's bigger. Either A is bigger, B is bigger, they're equal, or cannot be determined. Look at this question here. And this will be the last strategy I talk about. Okay. Just again, the message here is it's not a math test. Sure, you need to know a little bit of math, but there's a ton of strategy for this. Quantity A, the sum of all the numbers between 9 and 29. 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12 plus 13 plus 14 plus 15, on and on and on. Or the sum between 12 and 30. 12 plus 13 plus 14 plus 15. I'm curious, which one looks bigger to you guys? If you just have, just visually, if you don't even think about it, which one looks bigger? Rachel says B, B. Yeah, B, B, B. 99% of people, if you gave it to them, would say B. Okay? Because it does. It looks bigger. So if you were going to take a guess, and this is a guessing strategy, but it's effective, on the GRE, guess anything but B. Why? Well, because the test writer is smarter than you. That's why. And it knows what you're going to guess, and it doesn't want to reward guessing. It wants to punish guessing. So if you think it's B, select either A or C, okay? It can't be D because it's only numbers, so it can be determined. But that's a guessing strategy. There's other guessing strategies to increase the number of questions you get correct of the ones that you're guessing, okay? But one of them is guess against what your intuition says, okay? I know it's a blow to your ego, okay? But you don't understand. I see these things and I kind of have an intuition, a sixth sense You know, like if I meet somebody, I really kind of get a beat on who they are without even talking to them. No, you don't. No, you don't. Neither do I. Okay. And on this test, you're not seeing things that nobody else sees, as we just proved. Everybody selected B. Most people would. Why? Because it's been written that way deliberately. So if you're going to guess, well, don't guess B. But how would you actually solve it? Okay. Well, you could just add up all the numbers, but that takes a long time, even with a calculator. Maybe you pressed something wrong, you have to do it over again. One of the strategies that I teach my students is on quantitative comparison questions, okay? Let me give you an example. Well, the strategy is you can eliminate what they have in common because they're not asking you what this is, and they're not asking you what this is. They're just asking you which one's bigger, right? Like if I put two people in front of you and one is super tall and one is super short, and I ask you which one's taller, you don't need to know their heights to tell me which one's taller. You can tell that that one's taller, okay? But what if I cut them in half? Well, this one's still taller. What if I double their size, both of them? Well, that one's still taller, which means if we do the same thing to both of them, their size doesn't change. Eliminate what they have in common, 9 through 29 and 12 through 30. What numbers do they have in common? Yeah, Rachel says 12 through 29. Yeah. Asta says the same thing. 9 through 29 and 12 through 30. They both have 12 through 29 in common. Eliminate those. What's left? In quantity B, only 30 is left. In quantity A, only 9, 10, and 11 are left. And that's pretty easy. What's bigger, 30 or 9 plus 10 plus 11? And then I can answer it pretty quickly. 9 plus 10 plus 11 is 30. So the answer is C. They're equal. Is this hocus pocus? Is this magic? Is this some, sneaky little sales pitch that I have, for you to come and say, hey, I'm going to just be able to study for a week and then crush the math portion, even though I haven't touched math in 10 years. No, it's none of that. Okay. I'm not here to misrepresent how difficult the GRE is. It's hard. It's hard. So is the GMAT. What I'm suggesting is there's a right way and a wrong way to prepare for it. The wrong way is to prepare for it as if it was a math test. The right way is to beef up on the minimal concepts that you need to know for math that you may have forgotten, maybe some formulas or whatever, and then apply various strategies for questions and timing, okay, on the, equal, exactly, Artham, Asta, on the test, okay? That's my method. So Twainstein is the name of my company. If you're wondering where the name Twainstein came from, it's half Twain, half Einstein, Twainstein. All standardized tests are half verbal, half math, half Mark Twain, half Albert Einstein. My two kind of, intellectual heroes or whatever you want to call it. That's how I teach this test. I want you to look at the 6th bullet point, okay? Or the 4th one. The GMAT GRE is an entrance exam, not an exit exam. Before I close, let me tell you what the difference is. An entrance exam, if you're looking at it like you are, you're like, look, I don't care about the GRE. I don't care about math. I'm just looking at this as a means to an end. I got to get a big score so I can get into Harvard. That's it. I don't really care about getting better at math or memorizing words. Okay. That's the way I teach my students. It's not, hey, let's get better at all of this. It's what's the quickest, most efficient way to be done with this test, crush it, get a big score, so then you can move on to applications, and then be competitive at the top schools. And that's an that's an entrance exam. GMAT, GR. An exit exam is an exam that you need to pass and whose content you need in order to perform the functions of your job after you take the test. Plumber's test, medical boards exam, bar exam for lawyer. You need to actually retain that information. The GRE, you're never going to need again once you're done with it. So I treat it that way rather than as a content exam, as an exit exam. Okay. All right. So that I think is it. Any quick questions? I get the general feeling from the GRE that it punishes mistakes more in quant. Yeah, you're probably right, iPhone 10. You're probably right. Is that your first name, iPhone, last name 10? So I love that name. No, I'm kidding. As if I
I have a
needed to tell
question,
you.
Ari. Or Avi, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Avi, so when it comes to time management, I know the tip is like jumping ahead and
Who's speaking? Who's speaking?
oh, this is Morgan. I'm so sorry.
Hi, Morgan.
I can go off camera. That's probably better.
Ah, that's
So
okay.
when it comes to time management and looking ahead to solve the easiest question, quote, easiest questions first, would you recommend literally reviewing all of the quant questions before going back and starting? Or when you come across one you think is easy to solve, solving it and then keep moving forward?
Yeah, it's a good question, Morgan. I'm not going to give you a super satisfying answer, but I'll scratch the
That's okay.
surface of it. Yeah, I'll scratch the surface because it's a very good question. There's a lot of misinformation out online. Hey, skip the first 3 questions and you can't get a good score. Go to the last one. Skip the quantitative comparison questions. Do the graph ones first. Whatever. Okay. How do you select questions strategically to optimize your score and to make sure that you're addressing the ones that you have a good chance of getting correct first? I have a strategy that I outlined for that, but I'll give you the short answer, Morgan. Don't scan. No, the
Mhm.
short answer is don't do them sequentially. You see the one that you don't like, throw it away. Don't touch it. Don't even read it. I don't like the way it looks.
Yeah.
You have that right. You know what? I don't like the way you look. Question. Take back the control from the computer, from the test. It's a psychological thing. I'm telling you, it's psychological warfare. That's a big element of the test is the psychological element. Okay. And when you say, yeah, you know what? I don't like it. Give me another one. There's something empowering about that. Now, obviously, you can take that too far. And so there's subtleties to that strategy. But yes, if you don't like number one, toss it. Okay. Immediately without even looking at it or doing it. So don't scan it and go, okay, I'm going to do 2, 9, 10, 11, probably 6. No, it's a waste of time. Just go through one by one, deciding if you're going to skip or do. It's a very crude explanation for a lot more of subtle of a strategy, but it's about what I can do in the given time. Momina, is there negative marking on the GRE? Yes. Momina's question, is there negative marking on the GRE? You'll be penalized more for leaving it blank than you will for getting it wrong. Got it? Don't leave anything blank. More penalty for getting it blank than for getting it wrong. Yeah, you're welcome, Corey. I think I got a wrap here pretty soon. One last question. And well, before the last question, if you want to reach out, 10% off coaching. Like I said, reach out to other coaches too. There's differences, like I said, there's part-time coaches, there's full-time, there's people who have devoted their life to it, like I have, and written questions. I come at it from the perspective of somebody who's written the questions. There's people who teach math. There's people who teach, content. I focus on strategy. I don't care about getting better at math. I want to just be done with this test as soon as possible. Last question. Yeah, thanks, Morgan. Are the score requirements of GMAT Focus the same as before? I don't know what that means, Momina. What do you mean the score requirements? Oh, you mean like 700? No, they've adjusted their scoring algorithm. Thank you for your time. Yeah, thanks, Corey. All right, that's 12. Thank you, guys. You can reach out if you need to. If not, God bless you. I love you anyway. And that's it. See ya.